Hey guys, it's Kay from KS Anonymous, and I am here today with another new subreddit to the channel, r/relationship advice. Now, this one has quite the different kind of things about it. I believe that it is not just relationship that's romantic. I've seen quite a few different kind of dilemmas that people kind of have. So I thought it might be interesting for us to look into, see what people are wanting advice about, see some of the advice given, and if you guys had some advice you'd like to share, you can go ahead and, participate in a conversation in the comments. I, 29 female, found out I own my dead dad's car, but my family is pressuring me to give it to his 60-year-old female girlfriend. My dad, 54, died last month. We had a very complicated relationship. He had a girlfriend, 60, of 19 years, but they never married, so I'm the next of kin, heir to the estate, whatever. He and girlfriend had bought a house together the year before. She's selling that now, but needs to fix something in order to close. She was looking into selling his car and found out that technically I own it now. So my grandmother calls me to be like, hey, you need to sign the car over to girlfriend so that she can sell it to fix the house. He meant for it to go to her. So, okay, sure. The thing is, when my great-grandfather died 19 years ago, right around the time they got together, I was left an inheritance that was meant to be used for college. My dad spent all of it taking himself and his girlfriend on vacations to the Caribbean, living off of it, as well as his own inheritance that he got. I only stayed with him during the summer, so it's not like I was enjoying any of this money. He never took me shopping, never took me on a vacation that wasn't Six Flags, he barely even paid child support. They were both complicit in this. My uncles, aunts, and cousins all got their inheritance, but my dad and her spent all of mine and I never saw a penny. Every time my mother would ask about it, he'd say, "Something happened to it, I don't know, it got lost. No, it never came through. No, his wife kept everything, etc., etc." He never once admitted to spending it or even acknowledged that it existed. I think my mother talked to the family lawyer at one point and they were basically like, well, it was left under his care, so he can do what he wants with it. So, I kind of want the car. It wouldn't be worth much, but it would help me pay off my credit card debt enough to be able to finally start a savings. I know she needs it to sell the house, and I would be burning a huge bridge by doing this, but I am really angry when I think about how I'm being told to do the right thing when they did not do the right thing when they spent my money when I was a literal child. I don't know what to do. It's legally mine. She was the one making payments on it, so I get that it's her money. But she was complicit when he spent all of my money years ago. I also hate that she had my grandma call to tell me this instead of doing it herself like a coward. I don't know what to do. My grandma says this is clearly making me sick. Well, yeah, it's dredging up bad memories of when I was stolen from by my family and had to accrue a crap ton of debt to go to college when I could have had a huge leg up. So, do I do the right thing or do I do what's right for me? OP, it looks like you have 2 cars now. I've read all your comments. But if your father didn't have a will, you are entitled to the house he owned with his girlfriend. If his name is on the deed, guess what? You own part of it. Talk with a lawyer and don't allow anyone to sell that house until you find out about what your part is. Keep the cars or sell them to get rid of some of your debt. Whatever you do, they are your cars, and seeing how selfish your father was, be a little selfish yourself. Good luck. Heck yes, do this. Not married, no will, half that house is yours. I think that half the house might belong to you too. Have you spoken to a lawyer? I haven't, because I just assumed that everything would just happen naturally, or that she would tell me what I'm entitled to. I don't know, I'm dumb. Seems like I should. This. Not sure about the US, but in my country, child is going to have a claim on the estate, especially if they were unmarried. Yeah, if there was no will, you probably own that house too. Like she told you what you were owed for your inheritance years ago? Wise up. You're right. Thank you. So first of all, wow, her dad is kind of a piece of trash. That is beyond disgusting, and I can't imagine that a lawyer would just be like, oh, it's okay because the dad was allowed to do whatever he wanted with it. If that great-grandfather or whatever dedicated that money or set aside that money for her, I don't see how the dad is allowed to go spend it and not have a legal repercussion. Go with what's your legal right, because clearly you've been screwed over by them before, and who knows what else that's supposed to be yours that she's hiding. I personally agree with talking to a lawyer. I don't know what the whole 2 cars thing is. Maybe there's another car in this situation. It is possible that the girlfriend's name is on the deed of the house since they bought the house together. But again, I would definitely involve a lawyer. Should I, female 27, divorce my male 27 husband for getting a paternity test behind my back? My husband and I have been married for 3 years. We have a 1.5-year-old son, and I'm currently 6 months pregnant with our daughter. When I met my husband, he was very shy, and we didn't have the best relationship in the beginning. He'd constantly worry he wasn't good looking enough, tall enough, what have you. It was mostly due to his friends back then who were, to put it nicely, incels. They'd call me awful things and tell him worse, like that I couldn't be trusted because I had had boyfriends before him, or that I was just using him for his money, although we earned about the same amount. And I think he genuinely believed it for a time. I don't know. But when we got married, they started to shut up about it around me. I thought it was over with, that my husband and I could finally just live in peace, that they'd stop breaking him down with all their accusations. I was wrong. A couple of months into my pregnancy with our son, he came up to me and said we needed to talk. He wanted a paternity test. I was heartbroken. I cried and yelled at him, asking if I'd ever done anything to make him think that I was unfaithful, etc. Then he admitted that his friends had egged him on as to not get used by me. He apologized, but I felt so angry. I hated his friends and I hated him for asking, so I just gave him an ultimatum. We could drop the subject and I'd try not to hold it against him, or he could get his paternity test and we'd divorce because I didn't want to be married to a man that didn't trust me. He chose the former, and I honestly thought that was it. He broke off those friendships when our son was a couple of months old. But yesterday night, while he was in bed, I stumbled upon a shoebox that he kept below his bookshelf in our office. I don't know why I decided to go snooping through it. I probably shouldn't have. I don't know, but I found the paternity test he had gotten behind my back. Surprise, surprise, it was his, because of course it was. I confronted him and he apologized, begging me to forgive him, saying that he wouldn't have done the same with our daughter, that he trusted me, and that everything was different now, that he was different. I don't know if I can believe him anymore. All I can think about is about how he'd so effortlessly been lying to me all this time. Honestly, I don't know what to do. Go to couples counseling now. You may end up divorcing anyway, but I think you owe it to yourself to do that. Even if it's just so you can have a forum where you can make yourself heard. I don't know if I can believe him anymore. All I can think about is how he'd so effortlessly been lying to me all this time. Yeah. Piggybacking too, this is a solid answer. Best case, you two were for happy. Worst case, you divorced, but you two tried. For what it's worth, lots of love. That, and I think he needs his own counselor, and she needs to tell him his friends or his family, because it seems like they will just do the same thing the second baby or other parts. It was his friend who told him to do the test in the first place. The underlying issues that drove him to get the test done and then lie about it are troubling. His dishonesty was driven by a lack of trust in you, despite your assurance to him and us that you are faithful. Listen, we can't hear his perspective, but fundamentally, no healthy relationship involves mistrust in one's partner, and you can't fix that or him. You are faithful to him and fulfilling your vows, but he, in turn, is not. He chose not to believe you because of his own problems, and that is a tough thing for you to endure. The relationship is unhealthy, and if he wants to admit that and work together, maybe you have something to salvage. But to be frank, you've said nothing positive about him or your marriage, so maybe there isn't. I wish you all well. He's not all bad. I hope not, at least. He does love our son, and since he's gotten rid of most of those friends, he's been a lot better. He's even been doing things he never did while I was pregnant with our first, like sing to her and talk to her. I know he loves me, but I'm just sat here wondering if he loves me as much as I love him. I've always trusted him and tried to placate him when he felt insecure. It was just that one thing, that one freaking paternity test that I said no to, and he did it anyway. I love him, but god dang it, I feel sick to my core. Listen, it takes more than your love for him to make a marriage work. You know that. How does he feel about you? You say he loves you, but his actions show he does not trust you. That is really too bad. In a happy marriage, you have two people whose values and direction in life align, who fundamentally believe in each other and want to walk the path in life together. At the end of the day, it's your best friend and the one you want to spend time with. When my lady was pregnant with our kids, I was doing backflips. It never occurred to me to do anything but celebrate. When she died 5 years later from cancer, I mourned the loss of my best friend. Now I have found love again, and it feels the same. Trust, passion, friendship, shared values, laughter, and more kids down the road for us. You didn't mention a thing about you two as a couple, only that he has improved as a father. I don't know the man, and in fact, you could be the real psycho here, but your posts and comments are not those of a person in a happy marriage with a happy person. I could be completely wrong, and am not seeking to judge, only comment on what I see based upon my experience as a husband and father. I know he loves me, if only because his friends were so against him being with me in the first place. This last year, things were really looking up for us. I enjoyed spending time with him, and he didn't ask me to prove my loyalty anymore. As if I'd finally made it over the hill and we could be a family. We joke and laugh together, and I'd never been happier. I think it was the first time I felt he trusted me too. But seeing that paternity test, I don't know what to believe anymore. I really wish I was the psycho in all this, because if I was, then at least I'd be sure he wasn't lying all this time. I just wish I'd never found that test. I wish he'd never kept it or taken it to begin with. I know he didn't trust me, and I know he should have, but a part of me is hoping that maybe him trusting me now would negate all of that. I mean, now with our daughter, since I told him, he's been acting like you described. He seems happy, definitely more than with our son. Listen, I'm glad you are happy, and to hear about his improvement. His actions in the past show he did not trust you, but people grow and change, and you say he has. Maybe the test settled his insecurities once and for all. Only he knows the answer. I think if his actions show he is sincere and you are growing as a couple and as people, then use this as a catalyst for being vulnerable and find it in your heart to forgive him. But trust is hard to earn back, and his lies to you do come at a cost. Only you know if the life you guys have today is worth fighting for, but it sounds to me like you believe it is. Then go for it. Sounds like he was being pushed by jealous friends. I'm sure he had low self-confidence, and at the same time had those guys pushing the "she's effing other guys" lines on him. Unless you are really strong mentally, that will mess you up. Sounds like he has dumped those clowns and probably kept the test as a reminder to trust you and not listen to others. It's easy to say, he should trust me 100%, but much harder depending on your mental state. This one's rough, because clearly he didn't trust her, and he went behind her back in doing something that she basically said would cause them to divorce. But hearing that his actions have been very different now, I think really the advice that she's been given about going to counseling, or to use that as maybe a catalyst for being vulnerable and being able to, get everything out there and move on. I think that's the best advice, because clearly you guys are doing better now, and maybe he just needed to get that out of there. Even though you found it, like, now there's no more secrets, hopefully. And it does sound like he's dumped some really toxic people that kept him in that way. And that was a really interesting point where they said that maybe they keep that paternity test to remind themselves that they don't have to be insecure like that. And that was a really, really neat way of looking at it. I don't know if that's the truth. I don't know the guy, but if that's the case, then, that's kind of almost admirable. I don't know. It's so weird, because at the same time, it's the same thing of like a symbol of him not trusting you. I don't know. I just don't think you should just divorce him right now, because coming from a child of divorced parents, I really wish my parents would have tried harder. And so I really advocate for people to try in their relationships before they just kind of, dump people. And considering it does seem like he's changed, I would personally say, yeah, go to counseling, see if it's something that you guys are willing to work out. But I'm also really interested in hearing everyone else's opinions and thoughts on these 2 stories. Let me know in the comments below. And also, as always, these stories are linked in the description box. So if you ever want to weigh in directly on those posts, you can always go ahead and do that. And I wanted to real quick thank my patrons on Patreon. On the screen, you should see my face palmers and my crazy K's. Thank you all so much for being patrons and supporting me in that way. If you're interested in becoming a patron on Patreon, you can go ahead and check it out. It's in my description and on my end screen. Thank you all for being here. And if you ever want to send me something for possibly being in a video, you can send it to ksanonymous@gmail.com. And I'll talk to you in my next video. Bye!